A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Understanding the messages in the Quran for the common man. Welcome to the Human Manual, finding guidance from the Holy Quran. Let's embark on a journey trying to find the purpose of life, questioning who has the ultimate rights of determining right from wrong, searching for the true God, wanting to be guided by God Himself. Most people will not bother to ask oneself what is the purpose of being alive. They just follow what society does. When there is a problem in life, most will fall into depression and started thinking that life is meaningless. If a person believed in God and knows why God created him, then he has a purpose in being alive even though society thinks nothing of him. Most materialistic people will be conscious of what people think of him, and he will put on a show that he is better than the next person while belittling a person that he is jealous of. This person does not understand the purpose of life. A product created by human, example the washing machine, will come with a manual on how to operate the device correctly. If you keep doing it incorrectly, it will destroy the device. The Quran is a manual for human to refer to. If human keep doing the opposite of what the Quran has stated, it will make human being becoming a miserable species. The goal of the Quran is to guide people towards achieving taqwa, and the result is Jannah, paradise for eternity. The clear Quran. And we have certainly made the Quran easy to remember. So is there anyone who will be mindful? Allah made the Quran easy for remembrance, easy for remembering Allah and remembering the deen, easy to get advice from it. However, someone engaging in deep learning of the Quran will find that it is not that simple. He has to put lots of effort to learn everything about the Quran. Allah never said it is simple, but Allah said it is clear. Just like a professor who wrote lots of mathematical formula on the whiteboard. Those formulas were not easy to derive, but students found his solutions and teachings clear. Clarity is when something makes sense. A complicated thing is easy when you find clarity. The scholars writing tafsir of the Quran is not easy, but when we read the tafsir, it is easy for us to understand clearly the guidance. Humanity has complex problems. The Quran addresses those problems with solutions that are clear. Seeking Allah's protection against shaitan. Before reciting the Quran, we do not want shaitan to corrupt our intention. Therefore, we recite the ta'awuz. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge from Allah against the evils of shaitan, the accursed. Reciting ta'awuz before reciting any part of the Quran is a command from Allah. Surah An-Nahl 16:98. So when you want to recite the Quran, seek refuge with Allah from shaitan, the outcast, the cursed one. This shows how important it is to recite the ta'awuz. Shaitan will try to stop or deviate you from the Quran. He will not want to see a person getting guidance from God. The word a'udhu, seeking protection from the unseen, the kind of protection that will only come from Allah, since it involves the unseen world. We do not use this word with physical help, such as calling the police against robbers, etc. The next word after a'udhu is mentioning the protector, and it must be Allah. Some deviant people are using a'udhu to other than Allah, seeking help from the unseen jinn. Surah Jinn ayat 6. And some men used to seek refuge with some jinn, so they increase each other in wickedness. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, in commenting on this ayah, said that the Arabs during the time of Jahiliyyah, when in fear while camping at night, will call out loudly to the leader of the resident jinn in the valley that he is seeking refuge with the jinn. This will increase the arrogance of the jinn shaitan. This is shirk, associating partners with Allah. Shaitan will not only seek to disturb us in our religious affairs, but also in our worldly affairs. They do not want anything good to a human. They want to see a person to have a miserable and wretched life. What is shaitan? The word shaitan is an attribute of being far removed from righteousness and piety. It is not a specific individual jinn. It is a generic term to label anyone that has this evil and devilish behavior. The head shaitan is Iblis. The rest of the shayateen are of the jinn and men having similar attribute. Minal jinnati wan nas, Surah An-Nas ayat 6. Shaitan from the jinn and humankind. The word ar-rajim is describing the cursed action of shaitan that deserves to be pelted at. It is an adjective describing shaitan's action. additional ta'awuz. The Quran teaches additional wordings in seeking refuge from shaitan. Surah Fussilat ayah 36. And if you are tempted by Satan, then seek refuge with Allah. Indeed, He alone is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Deriving from the above ayah, the sunnah is to recite this dua. A'udhu billahi sami'il alimi minash shaitanir rajim min hamzihi wa nafthihi wa nafsih. I seek refuge with Allah, the all-hearing, the all-knowing, from the accursed Satan, from his purse poking, blowing and puff spitting. We invoke the attribute of Allah, the all-hearing and all-knowing, since this is the disturbance from the unseen world. Protection from the whispering of shaitan that we do not physically hear, but the was whispering goes into our hearts. Only Allah hears what the shaitan is doing and able to give the protection that we need. Hence we are acknowledging our weakness in front of Allah when we are reciting this dua. We internalize the meaning of this dua while sincerely seeking His protection. No harm can befall upon us except with the permission of Allah. The tactics of shaitan. Here is a brief list of the tactics of shaitan. Example, to forget. When we forget to act upon anything good that we have intended to do, that is from shaitan. Surah Al-Kahfi ayat 63. He, the servant of Musa alayhi salam, replied, do you remember when we rested by the rock? That is when I forgot the fish. None made me forgot to mention this except Satan, and the fish made its way into the sea miraculously. Sleepiness, laziness. When you have the intention of doing something but is hindered by feeling sleepy and weak, that is from shaitan. When we seek refuge in Allah, we will be more energetic, to feel scared or sad more than what is natural. When any normal person does not react in fear or sadness the way that you behave, high anxiety that overtakes you when others are generally calm. Humanly, fear is normal, such as fear of an unchained tiger in front of you, fear of the earthquake shaking your home, etc. What is not normal is when you are overly in fear of the future, overly fear of a job interview, overly fear of getting married, etc. When we seek refuge in Allah, we will be optimistic. Procrastination is from shaitan. Shaitan wants you to not do anything and lose everything. When we seek refuge in Allah, we will become more engrossed in what we are doing. Waswas, shaitan's whispering. Example, disgusting thought that comes from nowhere and appears in your mind. Sometimes you daydream. In normal situation, you will not be thinking of those. Shaitan entices you to think of those fantasy or evil action. He has no power to physically force you to do it, but he whispers and influences you to act sinfully. On the day of judgment, this is what shaitan will say to those who followed him. Surah Ibrahim ayat 22. I did not have any authority over you. I only called you and you responded to me. So do not blame me, blame yourself. Please memorize the additional ta'awuz that the Prophet ﷺ taught. When to recite the ta'awuz? In summary, we recite the ta'awuz before we recite the Quran, when we are to start the salah, when we are in salah before reciting anything, before we enter the toilet, when we are angry, when we are frightened or in fear, when we incline to do evil, when we are at a new unfamiliar place, recite this. A'udhu bi kalimatillahi tammati min syarri ma khalaqa. I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the evil of what He has created. And lastly, anytime without any reason, we are allowed to recite the ta'awuz for anything that may come from shaitan without us realizing. The chosen servant, Quran Surah Al-Hijr 39 to 40. Satan responded, my Lord, for allowing me to stray, I will surely tempt them on earth and mislead them altogether, except your chosen servants among them. Shaitan is unable to influence Allah's chosen slaves, those who are piously righteous in worshipping Allah and doing good deeds. We must work our way to become among Allah's chosen servant. One of the ways is to always seek refuge in Allah from shaitan, reciting the ta'awuz. We must make our lives free from the influence of shaitan as much as possible to realize the goal of going to a place where there is not a single shaitan, that is paradise. Pondering on the ayat of Allah. Reading Quran is to understand the messages. That is the purpose of this documentation. Shaitan does not fear people who read the Quran without understanding, but fears those who read and understand the messages. That was why the mushrikun of Makkah will make loud noises when the Prophet ﷺ was reciting the Quran to other Arab tribes, because they want to distract them from understanding what was being recited. The mushrikun will not bother the Prophet ﷺ reciting the Quran if the people listening are non-Arabs who do not understand Arabic and are just enjoying the melody of the Quran. Only by understanding and contemplation with the Quran will the Quran change a person from being bad to being good. A person can recite the Quran for 20 years but has no change in his bad behavior, since all the years of recitation are without any understanding. Definition of reading. If you read a magazine or newspaper, the purpose is to understand what you are reading. How about reading a book containing the speeches of Allah? Most Muslims will just recite making sounds that they have no idea what they are reading. That is not the definition of reading. Non-Muslims will find it weird. How can you read a book of a language that you do not understand? Tafsir of the Quran. A tafsir is a detailed technical explanation of every word and ayah of the Quran. Example, describing the root letters of a word, the tenses, the linguistic meaning, the context of the ayah, the history behind it, and any other relevant sources to explain the Quranic messages. Scholars have put lots of effort in producing tafsir upon tafsir of the Quran. There were many ways on how the scholars wrote their tafsir. One scholar had compiled every word in the Quran into a dictionary of Quran Arabic, explaining each one of them. Al-Mufradat fil Gharib al-Quran, a classical dictionary of Quranic terms by 11th century Sunni Islamic scholar Al-Gharib al-Asfahani. Teaching and studying the Quran. Sahih Bukhari 5027. Narrated Uthman. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best among you Muslims are those who learn the Quran and teach it. Learning and teaching is not only about recitation, but more importantly is about understanding. A good teacher is when students understand what is being taught using simple everyday examples. The aim is to get guidance, huda or hidayah. A bad teacher is when he is using bombastic words to impress people but nobody understands what he is teaching. A scientist will not be able to teach kindergarten kids as good as a kindy teacher will. The kindy teacher may not have the knowledge of the scientist, but she can achieve much more with the kids. The student in turn need to know the skills of learning. There is only so much a teacher can teach, but it is up to the student to personally know how to study. Increase in knowledge is not proportional to increase in iman, guided faith. Increase in sincerity is proportional to increase in guidance. By only glorifying knowledge will lead you away from guidance. By glorifying guidance is a start of getting both knowledge and guidance from your master. Quran as a miracle to the last nation on earth. If you were the Jews who saw the sea parted into two, you would be overwhelmed by that miracle. However, we did not see this miracle. The Quran is an ongoing miracle. Therefore, the same feeling that was felt by the Jews during the time of Moses ﷺ should be experienced by the Muslim nowadays when reading the Quran. Listen to the preserved divine speeches as it was originally revealed 1,500 years ago. Virtues in Quran recitation. Refer to a list of hadiths on the virtues of reciting Quran in another page in this document. We need the virtues from our deeds in order to add on our good scales on Judgment Day. Refer to the discussion on scales of justice in another page in this document. Ayah and Surah. The Quran consists of 114 surahs. The number of ayats may vary a little from one printed mushaf to the other. There were no addition or subtraction of ayat, but the slight difference is based on where an ayah starts and where it ends. You may refer to these pages, ayah and surah, for the full discussion available on other pages in this document. Kitabun fussilat ayatuhu Qur'anan Arabiyyan liqaumi ya'lamun. A book whereof the ayats are detailed, clear, and Arabic Quran for a people who know. Surah Fussilat 41:3.